In this movie, we'll talk about the advantages of shift clicking with the spot healing brush, which is just the ticket when painting away wispy details like hair. For example, check out the girl over here on the right-hand side. Notice this one stray hair coming down across her eyebrow and this other one that's going into her eyelash. The easiest way to get rid of those is to reduce the heck out of the size of your cursor. So you want to be working with a very small cursor like so. And then go ahead and click right about there, and then just keep shift clicking after that first click in order to paint along that hair, which is just easier than trying to paint freehand over that hair with such a small brush. Now, it's very possible you'll end up missing some bits like these guys right here, in which case just go ahead and paint over them. And now I'll just go ahead and paint over this, and I'll click, and shift click along this tiny eyebrow hair. And now we need to get rid of the hair starting right there. So I'll click, and shift click along this. I missed a point there. So now I'll have to click and shift click again. So if you ever paint at a different location, then you're going to have to start your shift clicking over again with a single click. Now that still leaves a little bit of hair in her eyebrow, which doesn't look exactly right. You could leave it alone, of course, if you want to, but I am going to take care of it. I'm just going to take care of it using a different tool in an upcoming movie. So for now, you can just leave it alone. And now let's take care of this hair over here, but I want to zoom in a little bit so I can get a really close look. I'll click right there and then shift click down along the hair. So I'm shift clicking a lot, as you can see, because if you do too big of a shift click, if you draw too long of a straight line, then you're going to miss parts of the hairs. All right, now I'll start on the other side. You do not want to paint through that hair. We'll take care of that little stray later. And in fact, why don't we just get rid of it now by clicking there and shift clicking down this hair. And it's just easier to paint it away than having to deal with one hair going through another. All right, I'm going to zoom in farther, obviously, click and shift click, and that didn't quite get rid of that little bit of hair, so I'll paint again. If you run into a detail like this that you just can't get rid of, then don't worry about it for now. We'll come back to it when we take a look at the standard healing tool, which allows you to specify a source. All right, now I'm going to click right there and shift click up into the hair like so. And so that just leaves that little bit. Let's see if we can get rid of it though. I'll just click with a larger cursor. And sure enough, it appears to go away. And then I'll just click into the eyelashes a little in order to produce that effect here. All right, another use for shift clicking is when you want to paint along a detail. For example, notice this little blemish here. It's appearing right next to a very fine hair. So rather than just painting next to the hair, I'm going to click and shift click along it like so in order to get rid of that stuff. And then I might click again just to make sure that I've gotten everything. All right, now what to do, however, about this guy right there? Well, I can click and shift click like so. Might work, it might not. If not, then you're going to have to backstep twice in a row by going to the edit menu and choosing step backward, or you have that keyboard shortcut of Control-Alt-Z or Command-Option-Z on the Mac. And the reason you have to do it twice, so I'll go ahead and press Control-Alt-Z or Command-Option-Z again, is because that's two operations, click and then shift click. So it requires two back steps. What I'm going to do instead is just take advantage of that blend mode. So I'll go ahead and set it to screen, let's say this time around, and then I'll increase the brush size by pressing the right bracket key. If that doesn't work, especially if it doesn't work on a PC, that's because screen is stuck. Notice that it's kind of sticky up here in the options bar. That's a Windows thing. All you have to do is press the escape key. And notice that blue highlight around the screen mode? It disappears, at which point the keyboard is now released to do whatever it is you want to do. And so what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to reduce the size of my cursor a little bit. That might be too small. So let's go with 15 pixels. And I'll just paint down this strand of hair and I'll paint along like so, and we'll see what happens. That worked out pretty nicely, but we did double up some hairs right there. So I'm going to press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that change. And I'll try painting over this area again and see if I get better results. And I don't, so you know what? I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to increase the size of my cursor this time and just draw a kind of check mark here and see what I come up with. That's not really working the way I wanted to, so I'll just go ahead and paint in here a little more. That extends that hair, which is not the effect I want. So I'll go ahead and change the mode back to normal, and I'll press the escape key and then press the left bracket key to reduce the size of my cursor, and I'll go ahead and paint over these hairs, and I just can't seem to get this to work. And the thing that's happening is I've now populated this region with a hair. And now Photoshop is so smart that it wants to keep a hair there, even if it's cloning it from a different location. So what we need to do is switch from content aware to proximity match, which is going to look for nearby pixels instead. And I'll just go ahead and paint that hair again and cross my fingers. And this time I get it to go away, which is a wonderful thing. All right, now I'll go ahead and reduce the size of my cursor quite a bit, and I'll click and shift click to get rid of that hair, and that didn't quite work, so I'm going to paint over it 100,000 times until it finally relents. And now I'll go ahead and switch back to content aware up here in the options bar, and I'll click and shift click next to this hair, and really honestly just hope for the best. And now I'm going to switch back. Let's try the light mode this time, so you can see, even if you supposedly know what you're doing, it does take a little bit of guesswork. I'm going to increase the size of my cursor and paint over this hair, and that worked out beautifully. This is what I was hoping to see. Let's see what happens if I paint over that top hair. That's looking pretty good, I think. It looks like a little bit of a split end, but that's okay. We are zoomed in to 300%. And now I'll paint over these two regions as well, and that's looking pretty darn good to me, and I think it looks really good once we start zooming out. So I guess this is a lesson in you can be as exacting as you want to, but perhaps after a point you should leave well enough alone. And those, my friends, are a few applications for shift clicking to create straight lines with the Spot Healing Brush.